Hey New Life, I am coming to you from beautiful Camp Lake Benson. It has been a beautiful time here. It's been a little warm, but it's been beautiful. The kids have had a great time. They've had fun. God has moved. We've seen quite a few filled with the Spirit. It has been a very exciting time. And so I just wanted to talk with you for a few minutes. We've been talking about stories within our story groups. And you know, stories are important. Our family of origin makes up the stories that we tell. It makes up who we are. You know, often we'll say something or we'll do something and we'll say, oh, I sound like my mother or my father. Well, that's because our family of origin tells stories, and these stories, they integrate and we learn things from them, and they become who we are. The stories that our families tell, it helps us to create something. It helps us to create the family that we are. It helps us to feel a sense of belonging. When your family sits around and they tell stories, you just feel like you belong. The same with New Life. You tell the stories of New Life and you feel a sense of belonging. Well, our story groups and our stories that our families tell are very much the same way. We create beautiful things with those. We're able to pass them on. We're able to see who we are, why do we do the things we do. We help to learn that through cultures and through things that are passed on in these stories. But not only do our family of origin stories create, and they make meaning, and they help us understand our culture and understand ourselves better and our families and give us a sense of belonging. Sometimes those stories can destroy. You know, it's often been said that perception is reality. So even if there's something that you maybe know that it's not true, but yet it's perceived to be true, then often we feel like it is true. And so sometimes there are families that will tell stories that are passed down, and even though people know they're not true, they actually realize that they really aren't, but they think they are, because perception is reality. And those are ways that we can destroy the stories that our families tell, by telling stories that aren't true. Sometimes we tell stories that may isolate, they may leave others out, and so those are things that we have to be careful with. You know, back in Judges, there was a generation that stopped telling the stories of God. They did not tell them to the next generation. They didn't tell them who God was. They didn't tell them about the miracles He'd done for them. They did not tell them who He was and how He was making a difference in their lives. It's in Judges 2:10. It says, "And also all that generation were gathered unto their families. And there arose another generation after them, which knew not the Lord, nor yet the works for which He had done for Israel." It was those people that did not continue to tell that, and the next generation grew up. And they didn't even know who God was. They didn't know what He had done for the children of Israel. They did not know who their families were. They didn't even know their culture. And so we've been talking about stories. And our stories are not meant to stay silent. Our stories are not meant to keep inside, but they're actually meant to get out. They're meant for us to tell others. Our job is to tell the next generation who our God is and the times that He's delivered us and He's freed us and He's saved us, the times when we needed Him the most and He was right there. But not only are we telling the next generation these stories, we're telling others that have never heard these stories. It's our responsibility to pass that on and to tell it, to not keep it inside, but to share. Because once we start to share our stories of who He's been and how He has delivered us and freed us and saved us, we then get to tell the stories of His great love and the stories of the gospel, the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. That is the ultimate story, because that story brings life. So we don't want to tell stories that destroy. We want to tell stories that bring life. So New Life, I challenge you today. Do not keep your stories silent. Don't keep them inside. Get them out. Make sure you're teaching the next generation of who our God is. Make sure you're telling others where they can find love, where they can find strength and peace in a world that has none, where they can find deliverance, where they can be saved by His great love. So take some time in your story group. We've got some questions, discuss them, talk about it. I want everyone to get involved and participate and talk. And when you leave your group tonight, I want you to leave with a renewed purpose in your heart and mind that you will tell the stories. You will tell your stories and the role He's had in it, and you will make sure to tell them to others. Let's tell our stories, New Life. Let's tell His story.